been a few days since the previous encounter in the world of the living. So far, you've all received orders to just go about your daily business as normal. But for obvious reasons, you were told that you'd probably be summoned once the details have been figured out. Well, that day seems to have been arrived, and you have all been called to the First Division Captain's Meeting Chambers once again. You all make your way over there. All those of you who were on both the first and second excursions that seem to be meeting with these characters. You all congregate outside the meeting room. There's a fairly hefty crowd here. You count the seven people. Stella and Arvin, Fukigen, Yasha, Shigure, Nozomi and Seijo. All of you are see each other approaching from different directions. You've got a few minutes before anything starts, so if you wanted to talk for a bit, then you'd be able to.
Seijo comes in, he's covered in flour.
Understandable. Stella sort of sees this and sort of, long day at work?
Well, I've been trying to recreate all the bread I found. Been doing that for the last 3 days.
I suppose the world of living does have a lot of variety.
Sure does.
I wonder what the lack of success is. She thinks for a moment. I don't know much about human customs, but possible there's just different ways of preparing it. So I suppose some things just might not occur if you're only used to doing things one way.
But I've been trying to figure out.
Yeah. You'll get there. I believe Shigeru wanted to say something then, as well.
Shigeru won't have said anything right now, but
Okay.
Yasha would have overheard the conversation into it. Maybe you should try putting one of those sausage things on top to make one of those hot dog thingies.
Arvin sort of looks and sort of...
Truly a marvelous taste. My
Arvin,
taste buds are still delectable and dancing in a euphoria upon the mere thought. He is starting to dribble.
oh god. Arvin gives him a look and sort of says, well, you did include it in your mission report, so I'm sure that the 4th or the 12th will be sorting something out regarding food. The Fukigen goes over to Nozomi and sort of, how are you doing?
It's all quite well, I'd say.
That's good. I've had some worries on my mind, but I'll be covering them in the meeting. You seem an old soul, though only recently joined here. Have you seen much in your time that you remember?
Well, mostly kept to myself so far, so...
It's understandable. He sort of trails off, just looking off into the distance. Nah, don't worry about it. I'll say it when everyone's ready. As this conversation finishes up, the door to the captain's chamber opens and the head captain steps out and sort of ushers you all inside. Come on. I've just been discussing some other matters, but now that we're done with those, time to move on to the main thing. In you go. You all file into the meeting, and those of you in seated positions will take up a place next to your captains, while the unseated of you will remain near the door on low cushions that have been provided. Everyone takes a seat, and the head captain calls the meeting. Thank you for joining us all today, everyone. Although most of you are already here. We're here to discuss this worrying new threat that seems to have emerged, both on a recent excursion in Eastern Rukon and Karakura Town in the world of the living. As reported by Shigure, and he nods to you, the Eastern Rukon team, as previously discussed, met with a extremely powerful Aronkar on the level of Vasto Lorde. This person, now that we've gathered more information, seems to be acting under orders from another Aronkar going by the name of Kaido. Most people here, barring Shigure and Kiyomitsu and Stella Kuroi, met him in Karakura Town after fending off some sort of incursion from 4 smaller hollows. I believe Yasha has a lot of the... Yasuhide has most of the info, and he nods to you to take the floor.
Yasuhide kind of stands up from his sitting position. If I may be so, then... The hollow you speak of was indeed, as far as I can tell, quite strong. I would say that his spiritual pressure rivaled that of a captain, if not even above.
You hear mutterings from some of the captains at this information, but nobody interrupts, and the head captain gestures for you to continue.
If anything, it's a presence strong enough that I would say, if he were to show up at any point in the future, I'd hazard a guess that nobody below at least the 4th seat should even try to engage. He says that with respect, but you can sense a tinge of like bloodthirst in his eyes, even if he doesn't intentionally do so.
Captain Zaraki gives you a look and sort of... You say that, but... When he arrived in Karakura Town, was he in his sealed state?
As far as I understood from the report about the Rankars, it would indeed be so, if I may humbly suggest that he was indeed in a sealed state.
Captain Zaraki grins devilishly before Ikaku punches him in the shoulder. What? And Ikaku's like, keep it calm. But Ikaku's also grinning as well. The head captain sort of waves a hand dismissively, but not unkindly, and sort of... that is concerning. 2 Aronkar on the level of Vasto Lorde, in their sealed states, no less, rivaling the power of captains, is a concern. And these fox-like Aronkar as well. You say that those of you who traveled to Karakura Town could deal with them fairly easily? And he looks towards Seijo and Nozomi.
Sorry, I was
It's okay.
thinking about a bread recipe. What were you saying?
Would you say that the 4 fox-like Aronkar that you dealt with in Karakura were not very threatening? That someone of your skill level could take them out fairly easily?
I don't know. I just threw dough at them and they ran away. So I don't know.
He sort of gives a good-natured smile and sort of, we're not perfect. And he sort of taps the edge of his sword against what you now notice is a bottle of sake by his feet. He looks to Nozomi though. What would your opinion on this be?
Easy would perhaps not be fully accurate. They were something of a nuisance, and I'm very grateful that we had all the very capable, all of us there.
I suppose even if people of your skill level could fight against them, it was good to have the numbers. Especially since there's 4 of them.
Yes.
He looks at Shigure and sort of, you receive the report on these hollows from myself. Given the information received, what would your take on all this be? You would have received information about everything that happened. So just assume that
Going from their pattern, and they all were indeed, as you said. He kind of pushes his glasses up as he's kind of thinking. As far as I understood from the reports, they were all indeed fox-like in their distinct features.
Perhaps the most concerning factor is the fact they held a single sword between them.
Indeed. Makes me worry that they might be connected in some way. He kind of looks towards, specifically towards the head captain. If I remember, I read a report of something similar back from last time.
The Winter War, yes. He seems momentarily lost in thought, almost melancholic, but pulls himself out of it. If something like that is indeed the case again, then that is a very worrying development. If an Oroncon has that level of strength, they need to do that to themselves again. But at this point, conjecture isn't the most helpful thing. It's worth noting, but until we have more information, best to not draw conclusions.
But of course, head captain. Though it might be worth keeping in mind that if one were to engage them, perhaps separating them or in some way preventing them from fighting as a unit would indeed be beneficial.
Perhaps so. Though I gather they split themselves when they scattered upon being found. He looks at Yasha for confirmation.
Yes, that would seem to be the case. But on the other hand, I felt somewhat that they were not seeing us as a threat until later on.
Let's see. Foxes are known to be playful animals. Perhaps a hollow that manifested with that sort of animalistic trait wouldn't view many things as a threat until it was quite bad. He looks at Fuhigen. By the way, you said there was another strange man who helped you in the fight. His name was introduced himself as Shakuhachi, and Fuhigen sort of nods like, yes, that's correct. We don't have much more to say about him, but his mannerisms were curious. The head captain looks towards Nozomi and Seijo again. I know the two of you don't have the most experience in these matters, but you both seem to have lived long lives outside of Serite, and in my own experience, that makes one a good judge of character. This Shakuhachi, what would you say about him? Did he seem helpful, or with his own intentions, or
Hmm. He did indeed help out. However, he... Hmm. Well... As soon as he sensed that Kaido was approaching, presumably, he very quickly left.
Arvin sort of nods. Yeah, he got out of there as soon as we felt him. As soon as we felt Kaido through the Garganta. He seemed fairly calm, but if someone we met on the street can see spirits and fight alongside us against them, then it stands to reason he would sense Kaido approaching. But at the same time, she sort of thinks over her phrasing. He didn't seem to be scared or worried at such a strong force. Either he's used to such power or has some connection to Kaido himself, but
Since Stellan Arm would be opposites, like face to face with the 7th Division, they would see Yasha mutter, "Clearly a witch."
yeah, Arvin just ignores it. It's sorry, head captain, just thinking out loud. It's not a problem. But the main draw of today's meeting, other than sharing information, is to figure out what to do with this. We ordinarily we would set lieutenants and captains on this, especially with a threat so strong, but he looks meaningfully at Yasha. Someone had to go and challenge him to a duel.
He kind of faces down towards his sword. Somewhat reminiscing, almost.
You see, the old dueling customs across the realms, though not well known, are still kept in record. Yasuhide here has the only right to fight Kaido now. Anyone else going after him in anything more than self-defense would be seen as a stain upon their honor. The same is also true in reverse. If Kaido attacks anyone other than Yasuhide, then without provocation, then well. But those eventualities aside, what we have on our hands is a little problematic. It's not spiritually binding, but there's old magic and old spiritual customs dating back several thousand years, and while I wasn't there to see them myself, they are the old ways for a reason. As such, those of you present on these excursions will receive special training. You will be put through a rigorous regime of spiritual, physical training in order to improve your chances at fighting these beasts that we know little about at the moment. He sort of frowns. This doesn't mean you're going at it alone. The captains and lieutenants and other members of the Gote will still be here to help you out. But as it was Yasha who challenged Kaido, and I believe Shigure Kiyomitsu issued some sort of verbal spar against this hunter we found in East Rukon. The two of you are at high risk at the moment. The fact that Seijo and Nozomi were on these missions as well does lead to the potential of being targeted as well, as you were there both times. Arvin, you stated in your own report that there was something off. I won't go into details, but he sort of thinks to himself, I believe you benefit from training as well. I believe you're close to achieving Bankai, so work on that if you can. He looks at Stella as well, sort of. As the commanding officer on the first mission, and having achieved Bankai recently yourself, which you still need to be registering it soon, I believe that while you're at a sufficient power level to be able to handle this, you still need to train in order to utilize your Bankai efficiently. You will benefit from joining them. And she nods and sort of course. He looks at Fuki again, sort of. I believe you had something you wish to say. He nods and steps forward. Kaido mentioned that a Shinigami was living in the Minnows Forest underneath Hueco Going by the report that the head captain shared with me from the Winter War, that Shinigami may be somebody I know. I won't get into details, but if there's a chance that they're still alive, I request joining in this force as well. The head captain said Norton. Of course. You're welcome to join. Though, you've already got plenty of experience, so perhaps you'd better take a side alongside Stella and Arvin and help the others train to start with. Captain Sophone of Division 2, she sort of rolls her eyes but steps forward. Yes, Captain? You'll be overseeing their physical training. She sort of... It's what has to be done. Alright. The head captain sort of nods at her. You'll be starting today, after this meeting. Sophone sort of gives him a glare. I'll have to cancel some previous appointments.
Shigure, expecting something like this, pulls out a envelope and kind of slides it behind everyone towards the second division area.
She notices it, and between one moment and the next, it's in her hand.
Inside is a photo of a certain black cat.
She gives you a look and sort of nods and sort of, yes. I'm sure she'd understand. She puts the envelope away. I'll need some time to set up the courtyard for training and clear the Omnitsguido out, but they should have it themselves for the afternoon. May I suggest some form of spiritual training as well? Meditation class or something similar. She looks over to the corner of the room where none of you noticed before, but those bearing the sigil of the Kido Corps had been paying attention to the meeting. The man who seems to be high up in the Corps sort of nods and sort of course, I can lead that session if you wish. Those of you with prior knowledge would recognize this as Hachigen. Those of you who don't just see a large man who looks fairly quiet and reserved. And head captain sort of course, if you can deal with that for now, and then Captain Soilfog can come and proceed to the next stage of training afterwards. If you could... He sort of catches himself. Not to be presumptuous, but as you fought in the Winter War, if you would be able to perhaps impart some historical information that would be helpful, I believe that would help as well. Better safe than sorry in these situations. Hachigen sort of nods. Of course, I'll do what I can. The head captain claps his hands twice. Alright. Those of you with no further commitments for the day are free to return to your duties. Captain Zaraki, don't go causing a rampage. I know how you get when you're excited to fight something. He sort of grins sheepishly and sort of, nah, where would I ever do that? Yeah. Most of the captains file out of the room, leaving you four, Soifone, Stella, Arvin, Hachigen, the head captain, and Fukigen. Alright. Now that it's just us here, does anyone have any questions before we start? Anything you want clarified, or...
Shiguro would kind of go, excuse my abruptness, but as much as I understand the whole concept of us requiring training, would it not be wiser for us to stay on hold and instead focus on sending our stronger troops?
He gives you a look, and sort of... Well, you see... While most of the captains already privy to this information, I saw no reason to repeat it before, but... We've dispatched an envoy to Las Noches to see what information the Queen has for us, if any. Said envoy will be plenty strong enough, I believe. If any trouble's caused, they'll be able to deal with it. You noticed that the captain of the 6th was absent during the meeting, when this is mentioned to you.
Well, apologies, Head Commander. He kind of, with a slight level of disappointment in his voice, kind of just bows his head and backs off.
No apology necessary. It's good to have outside, hang on a second, I'm trying to think of the words for this.
Perspective?
Yeah, outside perspective, that's it. Yeah, an outside perspective on this. It's, even with years of experience, these things get missed sometimes. He sort of looks at the others. Anyone else have any questions about anything?
Oh, if that's all, I'll be in my kitchen.
He sort of chuckles apologetically, sort of, yeah. You'll be busy for the next few hours, but I'm sure you'll have time for to go back to the kitchen this evening.
Oh. Oh well.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, he sort of wants to say something, but then thinks better of it. Alright, if that's it, then the four of you, please head with Hachigen here. Stella, Arvin, Fukigen, I'd like to speak with you privately now. And they sort of nod and stay behind. Captain Soifone heads off to prepare the 2nd Division courtyard. And the four of you...
Before they head out, Yasha would turn around towards the head captain.
Yeah.
Entering a formal bow. Pardon my rudeness. However, as I am, for one, lacking in the keto department, I would ask for a temporary absence, as there is something I feel the need to do.
Explain.
There are some ghosts that I need to confront.
He thinks for a moment. I'm gonna DM you a question. He sort of I'm afraid that I'll have to decline, but only for today. Tomorrow you're more than welcome to do this.
I see.
I believe that you staying with everybody else would be the best choice. I know your strengths, but better that you stay together, at least for the start.
He nods and then kind of turns around.
Right. The four of you exit the barracks. So everyone heads off to the northwest, the 2nd Division. Hachigan takes you to the Kido Core building. I'm going to move you down here, but it's just this triangle here. It's the hexagon, not triangle. Move that up there, and move you over there. Okay. You enter the Kido Core building, and it's not something any of you have been into before. It's like the rest of Serite, it's kept fairly clean with silence except for scratching of paperwork behind closed doors. He leads you all to a room with candles and incense around the walls and cushions upon which to sit, and sort of we'll be using this room for today. The Kido Core often uses it as a meditation room of sorts. We can start here. Each of you has entered Jinzen before to communicate with your Zanpakuto spirit in your inner world. If you could do so kindly now and perhaps take some time to discuss these events with them. He lights a stick of incense and places it in the far corner of the room. The smoke rises, and each of you feels a little heavy-headed. Not sleepy, but almost as if meditation would be something that comes easily to you. Shigure, in your time in Serite, you've heard stories of this, but never really seen it. It's a invention of Kisuke Urahara's, meant to aid in performing Jinzen.
So he seems to kind of just ponder the whole mechanism, like the whole system or concept.
Yeah. Each of you takes a place on the cushion, puts your sword on your lap with your knees crossed, and closes your eyes. After a moment, you will feel yourself slipping into your inner worlds. Please roll a d20. You can roll one for Yasha and one for Shigure. Alright then. Seijo. You open your eyes in your inner world. In here, the influence over you is gone. You are simply yourself with no compulsion to act upon the whims of your sword. However, you don't seem to mind. You never really have. You stand upon the hill from which you drew the sword. Sitting in the place of where the sword used to be is the being you recognize as the god of baking. He inclines his head courteously and... Welcome back.
Oh, hey. How's it going?
It is going. I spent the past few days thinking over ways to make those loaves of bread that you came upon in the world of the living. Though, he sort of frowns. I'm going to post his artwork in the Star Channel for everyone to see. I just need to go through my billions of folders to get there. These arts will be posted during the campaign so that everyone knows who they're talking to. Also, just so everyone knows, where is he hiding? I know I saved his art somewhere. If I didn't save his art, I'm going to be sad. I did not save his art and I'm sad. God damn it.
Okay.
I will post it after the campaign.
Alright.
His skin has the quality of well-baked bread. It's, sort of the part on top that's really sort of hard and crunchy.
Crusty and golden brown.
Yeah. It's he has 4 arms and is wearing a blue loincloth. On his head is something which you saw in the shop in the World of Living. It's a Western chef's hat. He was not wearing this before your visit to the World of the Living. In one of his 4 arms, he holds a single loaf of bread. You recognize it as a standard Japanese-style loaf. He brings all 4 arms together and holds that single loaf in all 4 hands and sort of... In all my millennia alive, bread has always been that which I presided over. But I was unaware of so many varieties. I believe that searching for the ways to create these loaves would be beneficial to the both of us. Would you agree?
I'm down.
He inclines his head. I'm grateful. Your experiments may not have yielded fruit in the sense of creating a loaf of bread, but I've seen you at work, and after your performance in that fight in Karakura Town, you gave me an idea. He grabs the loaf of bread in 2 of his hands and pulls it apart. One hand still holds the loaf of bread, the other hand now holds one of your minions. He blows gently on it, and it seems to cook before your eyes, turning from a well-baked loaf into something burnt, almost. He winces in pain at seeing bread mistreated this way, but nonetheless, he holds it out to you.
I'll take it.
It leaves small patches of charcoal on your hands, but and as you hold it, but you can feel the warmth within. It's much hotter than a regular one, almost burning, but you know your sword's power couldn't hurt you. Much as it pains me to do this, but I believe Skills such as this could be of benefit to you. Your summons in combat, if they were able to harm their foes more effectively, it would be of benefit. The less time spent in combat, the more time you can spend researching bread, after all.
Yeah, I was thinking that it wouldn't have been possible to know about these things had I not been sent out. So maybe getting out the kitchen every now and then is not such a bad idea.
Indeed.
And hey, one burnt loaf is still one loaf closer to perfection, right?
He smiles and sort of course, of course. He makes a sort of beckoning gesture to the minion with one hand, and it hops out of your hands and goes back towards him. As it does so, it seems to catch on fire and explode, sending out fragments of charcoal. None of them strike you, but you can feel the heat, and from there, sort of one loaf closer to perfection, indeed. I will add it. I will send it to you later. But you have now gained the ability to cook your minions. They will deal. They will burn their targets, and you can detonate them remotely to cause extreme suffering.
Extreme suffering. I love
Congratulations! You've created bomb shoes.
it. Yay!
You now with this discussion complete, you come to your senses. Meanwhile, Yasha, you find yourself on a war-torn battlefield. You feel a well-known presence behind you, but it makes no move to speak. The sky is grey and overcast, almost twilight. There's no sun in sight, but you feel as if this place is a place of desolation. What do you do?
He reaches his hand out to pick up one of the kind of broken blades on the battlefield that's stuck through like the ground.
It's a regular Asauchi. The blade is roughly snapped halfway along, and the edge is nicked and not in good condition.
He mumbles. Each one a broken dream. Each one a lost life.
You hear footsteps behind you, and do you turn around? Or do you remain staring at the sword? You know the origin of these footsteps. They won't hurt you.
He would put the sword down, like, back on the ground. Kind of not turning around, but he would say something along the lines of, "So, once more my past haunts me.
Little quiet, little louder, sorry?
Once more my past haunts
You feel a hand on your shoulder.
me. I'm sorry I could never become a demon.
You feel a hand on your shoulder. It's awkwardly placed, and you feel the weight of the metal on the wrist behind it, but it is a strange sort of comforting nonetheless. No words, just the hand.
Yasha then kind of continue, or Yasvi, that even if you might forgive me, they will never do so. Nor can I beg for their forgiveness anymore.
You hear a sigh, but No other response. Your Zanpakuto spirit sits down on the ground behind you. You hear the clinking that you're used to by this point. I'm going to see if I can turn your volume up a little bit. Yeah, I can't. Okay, never mind. Yeah. He doesn't say anything to you, but...
Yasha kind of instinctively wants to turn around, but it seems like he's holding himself back, almost as if he's not allowing himself to turn around.
Your spirit just sits there. You can't sense any emotions off him. There's only the occasional clinking as he shifts his position and the hand on your shoulder, offering what comfort he can. He knows that you don't believe in yourself at the moment, but he hopes you can still hear him if he speaks.
If thou wouldst be my judge, then mete out thy punishment.
He shakes his head. I would not judge you. Not after what you've been through. There is no shame in this. But you judge yourself, and that is far worse than anything I can do.
However, it is what I deserve. I failed both you and them. You begged for me to kill you that day, but I was too slow.
And you still let it haunt you, even so far later. You are the only person who you need to beg forgiveness from. You don't see it, but you sense that he's smiling, not pitying you, but just kindly.
I doubt I'll ever let go. But if even you... He kind of opens his eyes, a bit more resolved this time. Hopefully next time we meet I'll be more resolved.
I'm sure you will be.
He grasps his own sword this time and begins walking towards the horizon in this weird landscape.
You walk towards the sunset, and as you do, you hear a voice behind you, sort of, take care of yourself. Do you respond?
He would mostly just use his left hand and kind of hold it to roughly his stomach, almost as if he felt a tinge of emptiness there.
Okay. You walk towards the horizon, and as you're walking away from this battlefield of broken swords, you begin to wake up. Nozomi, you awake at the entrance to your inner world. The library filled with books. You wander the shelves for a bit, picking out something to read while you're here. Do you want anything specific? Do you find anything specific, or?
Hmm. Hmm. I wonder. And she would sort of, yeah, not look for anything in particular, but sort of almost at random pick something off the shelf.
Okay. You pick the book off the shelf and make your way to the area at the center of the library that you know waits what you're looking for. You settle into the chair, and on the chair opposite you sits the curled up form of a cat. As you open the book, it stretches out and purrs before opening its eyes and looking at you in a sort of curious way. Things are getting interesting, aren't they?
Yes, indeed. He would sort of smile a bit, both gently and with a tinge of not quite excitement, but piqued curiosity.
Things have been set in motion.
Hmm.
I wonder where they will go. The cat hops down off the chair and sort of climbs onto the arm of your own and rests its head against the back of your hand as you hold the book open. There's still a lot to learn, but I'm sure that we'll find a lot of things on this journey.
There does seem to be the very likely possibility of that. There is always more to learn.
You held yourself well against those foxes.
Well, thank you.
That technique you used that I forgot I hadn't told you about. It's an interesting one. A cat in danger will often unsheath its claws, but when in true danger, may choose to strike twice. If a simple scratch does not cause the foe to flee, then another attack may be necessary, sad as it may be to draw more blood. It rests one of its paws on your arm and slowly unsheaths, slowly opens its paw up and its claws. They're not digging into your arm or anything, they're just resting there, but you feel the cold points on your skin. They just rest there. I see I'll have to impart more knowledge to you in the coming days and weeks, it seems, but for now, focus on what's important to you. These Shinigami have a lot to teach. Not all of it is peaceful, but all of it will help you survive.
Desperate times may require desperate measures.
The cat grins. Not quite a Cheshire cat grin, but just a sort of very content smile. Such as it be. You continue reading and the cat stays curled up, resting its paw on your arm, retracting it, but its claws are now retracted. As you near the end of the book, you feel yourself dropping off to sleep, and as such, waking up. Shigure, you find yourself on a bridge across a raging river. Half of the bridge is covered in rain. The other half is clear skies. You stand in the dry half, not a drop of water on you. In the other half stands your Zanpakuto toe under an umbrella. He stares out over the river, making no sign that he recognizes your presence here.
Shiguro would kind of look out over the river to begin with, kind of just admiring it as he kind of makes his way. He kind of just stands in. Unconsciously, he ends up standing in basically the same way as the spirit.
You stare over the river for a while and just take it in. Despite how fast and loud the river is, it's still peaceful to you. And the spirit doesn't initiate conversation, just taking it in at the same time as you.
Igor kind of continues pondering to himself, not really intending it for it to be more than a monologue. Just like this river. These seem to be turbulent times.
They are. The voice is flat. Not quite sad or cast down, but just neutral.
Unfortunately, there's little I can do. The most is calming the river, I suppose.
As you say this, you see a rock seem to almost grow up out of the river in front of you, and as the water hits it, it begins to spray it upwards. The spray falls lightly onto the bridge, showering you in a gentle mist. The spirit turns towards you. Things may not always get better right away. It may get worse first.
So be it. As far as I understood, it's been the Kiyomitsu clan's duty to calm down conflict, not instigate it.
Historically, yes, that was the case. The spirit turns towards you, and as it approaches the middle of the bridge, you find yourself doing the same. He just eyes you.
However, that role is not one we took upon ourselves willingly. It was one forced upon us due to our lack in other abilities. The reason we chose to prefer calming down conflict, as far as I understand, is not because we wanted to, because we couldn't do anything more.
He repeats himself. Historically, yes. He looks out over the river, and as you watch, the rock that's adding to the turbulence descends below the surface once more. And you see in the distance, upstream, that the river seems to be changing course. It still comes towards you, but as you watch, a meander in the river is almost cut out, and it becomes a horseshoe-shaped lake of water, completely still. But times change. That may be the case in the past, but in the present, things are different. He looks at you. You gather a sense, he's not looking at you reproachfully, but there's an indescribable sensation to his gaze. You should work on improving that which you are not as proficient in. Having said that, your skills as my descendant may be invaluable, and honing those would also be a good use of your time.
He kind of looks out over the river, or the remains of the river. I truly can still not grasp how the older generation prefers suboptimal solutions.
He inclines his head and sort of elaborate, if you will, for your own sake as much as mine.
Would it not be better for us to continue the one thing we're good at? In these times, with these threats, would it not be better to rely on those who has already proven themselves capable of dealing with it?
He shakes his head sadly. Doing that means that others are afforded no opportunity for growth. If the Gote 13 always lived by that, the head captain would take to every battlefield, kill every opponent, and balance the souls of the realms by himself. There would not be a single other Shinigami in existence. Diversification is necessary sometimes, even within our own field of Kido. There is a uniqueness. Our own arts, which we created, they are our own speciality, and they are what sets us apart from other experts and masters of Bakudo. But before us, there was no us. We created this niche ourselves, and we fulfill it to the best of our ability. However, those were different times to the present. We may not solely be able to focus on our own arts anymore. With so many Shinigami here, with so many different specialities in their weapons and their fields, sometimes one needs to be better at other things in order to stand out. Many of the captains may have great strength, but almost all of them are required to learn Kido in some form. Save the 11th. He scoffs slightly.
You say that as if it's not only our current 11. Follow that trope.
He sort of shakes his head. Don't mind the ramblings of an old man. He looks out over the river with you again. In the end, my words are all I can give. Whether you choose to focus on that which you're already good at and hone it until you are without peer, or to diversify your fields and become as an ocean, it is not.
So what you're saying is that without imperfections, the river will grow stagnant.
You sort of, I might not phrase it exactly like that, but yes, a river has a source, and that source is constantly creating new water for the river. Using my previous example, if the captains were the only ones fighting, then there'd be no need for lieutenants or seated officers or the rank and file. The only thing we'd have is stagnancy. As I'm sure you remember 20, 30 years ago, just how much worse the Soul Society was at being stagnant. Recent changes have brought about a new age, but it's only just starting. The river is only just picking up speed. You can be part of it. You can be swept away along with it. Or you can be pushed to the shoreline. In the end, all I can do is show you which directions you can go. As he says this, the rain on his side begins to ease. Not by much, just a little bit.
So, as far as I understand it, my choices here, as you line them out, is either be swept by the river or fall in and swim to shore.
No. You can become one with the river. Lead this change yourself. You can simply go along with it, making do, or you can be pushed to the side of the river, unable to move forward until you choose to jump back in.
He kind of sighs as he looks out towards it. This is unbecoming of me. He is going to jump onto the water surface, walk over it since it's currently still towards where whatever stopped the river flowing, and take out his sword and attack the thing that stopped the river flowing.
It didn't stop flowing. It was still flowing. What happened upstream was that there was a meander in the river, and it eroded a straight line, and the meander became a horseshoe-shaped lake. The river kept flowing. However, if you wish to if you wish to jump into the river and walk along its surface in order to restore it to its old shape, you may do so, because as you approach this lake, you see that the water within it is indeed stagnating.
Once the river is returned to flowing properly, Shiguru will start just walking up the river, like upstreams.
Yeah. Half of the river is still covered in rain, and half of it is clear skies. You continue to walk up your side of the river, towards the source. Every time you try this, you get closer to it, but you've never yet reached it. You get to where your furthest point was before, and as you continue walking, you take in new scenery you've not seen before. However, as you continue walking, 1 foot falls through the surface of the water, and as you hit the surface, you wake up. Hachigen is in front of you with his eyes closed, and as you look around, you see the other three coming to their senses as well. Yasuhide seems to be perturbed. You notice that there's a bit of dirt on the bottom of his shoes. Nozomi seems content. You notice that there's a small mark on her arm, almost as if something had been resting there for a couple of hours. Seijo is looking the same as always, but his hands have a bit of charcoal on them, and you yourself, as with every previous time you've fallen into your river, your clothes are damp. However, as you come to full consciousness, they begin to dry off. Noticing the change in the atmosphere, Hachigen opens his eyes and sort of... Were you all successful?
Guess you could say that.
That's good. Communication with one's sword is important.
Yeah, it was great. We just talked about baking.
Well, far be it from me to judge that. My sword and I often talk about unrelated things very frequently. As you, Yasha, roll a... Let me scroll up. Roll a d12 for me. That is a 6. You feel something hollow-esque at the edge of your senses. It seems almost laughing, but you can't get a bigger read on it than that.
From roughly which?
From Hachi.
Okay.
It's, he stands up and stretches, and you notice that the incense stick that he lit is burnt out completely. He goes to the door and opens it. You see Captain Sophone outside. They start talking quietly, and each of you has a chance to stretch, and if you wish to discuss anything, then you can do so. Although communication with one's sword is usually a private affair for some people.
Shiguro makes, like, out of habit, basically wringing out his cloak, like his cape, despite it not being damp anymore. He just does the motion out of habit.
Yeah. You get some water out of it. It's not completely dry. And as the water hits the floor, it turns into mist and disappears. Captain Soyphone will stick her head inside and sort of, well, if you're all done, we can make our way over to the barracks and get started on what's next. Unless anyone has anything important they need to do first, she says, glaring slightly, as if to dare anyone to say they have something to do.
I mean, if it's nothing important, I can go back to the kitchen.
Her eyebrow twitches. I'm afraid that'll have to wait. Much as I understand the importance of your work, it won't help you in combat against an Aronka. With that, she turns on her heel and stalks away. You'll follow and catch up with her just outside the Kidokor building. As you make your way over to the 2nd Division barracks, she strikes up a conversation. So, I gather Kisuke told you something about Aronkas. I know some of you know some things already, but he does like to leave things out. What do you know so far? It's okay if you've forgotten, that's fine.
Yeah, it's been a while.
Yeah, that's okay. I can just, well, basically what it was is that, Aronka are hollows. What Kisuke told you, I believe, is that Aronka are hollows that have broken their masks. It prevents them from evolving any further, becoming stronger, but also prevents them from regressing and becoming weaker. They break down the barrier between Hollow and Shinigami, gaining their own Zanpakuto in the process. So, if you relay this information to her, she would sort of, well, some of that is lacking. You see, similar to a Shinigami, an Aronka can release their sword to return to a state similar to before they became an Aronka, with greatly increased power. A Vasto Lorde alone is on the level of a captain. A Vasto Lorde Aronka, similarly so, but a Vasto Lorde Aronka in their release state, well, a captain would need to enter Bankai in order to stand a chance. Maybe even two captains.
Claims or interjects. As far as I've understood, only 5 of those have ever been documented.
She gives you looks at 5 Vasto Lorde Aronka.
Yes, as far as I understand, only 5 Vassal Lords have ever become Aronka as far as we are aware. At least until now, I suppose.
And, well...
And all of them caused quite severe... Well, they all needed quite severe amounts of force to...
They did. However... Well...
As he said that, also he looks towards the 5th barrack.
Yeah. Yeah. The Aronka we faced in the past were certainly powerful, but these new ones, seemingly also in Vasto Lorde level, we have no idea how many there are. We know of at least 2. The Hunter and Kaido. The Fox potentially could be a 3rd, but depending what we find out from our envoy to Las Noches, we may discount that and it may merely be in Huchas. if that. We're operating an information deficit, and it's not exactly ideal. She sort of mutters to herself. Anyway, that's not the last of it. There have been recorded cases of Voronkar in the past having a second stage of their release, similar to Shinigami having Shikai and Bankai. An Voronkar can have both a Resurrection as their Shikai equivalent, and a Segunda Etapa, or second stage, as their Bankai equivalent. The only recorded case of this killed one of our best soldiers. But they were eventually taken out. She seems loath to share the details. Alas, we have no way of knowing if an Aranka has a Segunda Etapa until they release it. And if any of our foes do hold this power, then no matter how well we train you, you won't survive. So, with that in mind, we're going to train you as best we can, but in the end that something goes wrong, we'll be there to help. She sort of glances meaningfully at Yasha. You wouldn't need to get involved in the first place if it wasn't for this idiot, but... I'm only a few hundred years old, and not as accustomed to the old ways as some Shinigami. But I've heard stories. She lapses into silence, and if no one has anything else to say, you continue towards the 2nd Division barracks. As you arrive at the courtyard, you notice that the Gomnitsukuide that are usually here, Shigure, when you come to visit Omaida, are completely absent. You can't sense anything here. The courtyard is a fairly decent replication of a Rukon District forests with clearings, trees, rocks, natural cliffs. As you approach, Soifone points her fingers towards what you notice are training dummies. They seem to be newly set up, but none of them bearing a single mark. I want each of you to show your skills to me, and from then I can help you to improve them. I am going to drag you, because I forgot to make any sort of actual map for this, because I woke up at 12:30 and didn't have time to make a map. You get this one, because hey, it works. What can I say? It's the Rukon District. So each of you is here. Let's see, I need to put out one of these guys. Let's put out these ones. So these here are training dummies in this case. I'm going to alter their stats slightly so they survive a little longer. Oh, god damn it, that one's squished. There you go. Okay. 20. 20. Okay. So, So phone takes up a seat over on this rock over here, just crouching on it. And alright. I want each of you to show me what you can do. Please click your characters and roll initiative. Where's my turn order? It's not that. Is it this? It's this. Okay. So we have. How do I drag these into here? Is it just this? Nope. I don't know how to drag these in. Okay. I'll just have to set them manually then. I guess they were supposed to be automatic, but I guess I just didn't put this up in time. Okay, so which was the 7 for?
7 was Shigura.
Okay, can I initiative. Okay, there we go. So now Shigure 7, Yasuda is 10, Nozomi is 11, and Seijo is 9. Sort numerically descending. Okay. Nozomi, you're up first. Please choose any of these training dummies, and in your own time, attack them however you wish. I also forgot to officially state, you now have proper access to double Wildcat Strike. If you use a Wildcat after a Wildcat, its damage is doubled. This does not stack infinitely at the moment. So, let me go to Battle System, Flow of Combat. As each of you knows, your characters are also leveled up, so you've got some extra stats. Those of you with increased Kido will have high-level spells. Start of turn, 10% maximum SP.
Yep, I read a lot.
Yep, so you're up to 16. Or is it? Yeah. Okay, you have 3 actions.
Yes.
With a Kido level of... Let me just check quickly. 1, yes. So you've got a lot of movement.
Yeah.
But not much Kido, and no blocking, and decent swordsmanship. Okay. There is no goal here. This is simply a combat evaluation in world. If you wish to show you simply your movement speed rather than attacking the dummies, that's perfectly fine. And it will help Cypher